Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Behold podcast on the Genre Equality channel. I'm Hitzer.
I'm Isa.
And if you listen to our last episode, we sort of picked out our honorable mentions for best films of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And for this, we'll do the counterpart to it, our honorable mentions for best TV shows of 2020. Another way I would like to phrase it, with the honorable mentions is that these are kind of the underseen, flew under the radar shows and films
Yeah.
that you won't necessarily find on many best of lists, if any, except for mine on Popeye. If you want to check it out. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these like flew under the radar for several reasons. For two of the shows that we're talking about today, it's because number one, we'll be talking about Feel Good. Number two, we'll be talking about City So Real, and number three, we'll be talking about Mythic Quest. Okay, for Feel Good, which a show that I deeply enjoyed, and it was a very short binge on Netflix. It was kind of buried by Netflix's algorithm, and just the amount of stuff that comes out on Netflix. It's easy to overlook a little gem like this. With City So Real, which is a sprawling documentary about the 2019 Chicago mayoral elections. It was aired on National Geographic. I mean, hands up, who has a subscription to the Net Geo channel? None of you, right?
Yeah.
So that's City So Real. Similarly with Apple TV Plus's Mythic Quest, which kind of a workplace comedy dealing with the toxicity of video game studios, had a bit of a press behind it. It had a lot of critical acclaim, a lot of good reviews. The thing is, when I talk to my friends about Mythic Quest, most of them are like, cool, that sounds great. Where do I watch it? Oh, I don't have Apple TV Plus. And I keep trying to point out, have you bought an Apple phone or a device in the last year? Because if you do, you have a 12-month subscription for free to Apple TV Plus. Just turn it on, check out Mythic Quest. So those are kind of the shows that we'll be dealing with today, and we'll be kicking off with Mae Martin's Feel Good on Netflix. Man, I really, really enjoyed the show. It was such a deeply complex exploration of queer love and comedy and addiction. I feel like many may not have heard of comedian Mae Martin, I think, prior to her Netflix debut here. But judging by the astonishing quality of a series, I feel like she's every bit as good as the Donald Glovers or Pamela Adlons or Aziz Ansari's of the world. Like the comedians and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, of course, who have turned their lives into autobiographical dramedies. It feels like a breath of fresh air. It frames very complicated emotions and issues through shrewdly funny and a bracingly honest lens that only the kind of most sharply observant comedians possess. Those who don't know, Feel Good follows the titular character Mae, named after herself, a struggling stand-up comic from Canada, barely eking out a living in London. She's a recovering drug addict and basically homeless, but things are starting to look up when she meets a gorgeous English teacher named George, played by Charlotte Ritchie, during one of her sets. Their chemistry is kind of scorching from the start, and the rom-com portion of their relationship unfolds very briskly with a quick montage in the first episode. They fall in love, they move in together within the opening minutes, but what's next? And that's kind of the gist of the show. This is where the show sets itself apart immediately. Feel Good isn't the rom-com as much as it is the messy and raw exploration of what happens after a rom-com. Having caught Feel Good on Netflix, what do you think about it?
I didn't know it was on Netflix. Really, like I've caught some of Mae Martin stuff, just like random things that maybe had popped up on my Facebook timeline, or just like diving into comedy stuff on YouTube, and her name came up a couple of times.
I had no idea who she was before the show.
Yeah, so like when you recommended this, I was like, oh, she has her own show. I had no idea, and then when you told me it was on Netflix, I really like. I try my best to keep abreast of the comedy stuff on Netflix. But no, I had no idea whatsoever. So, I mean, of course, like Netflix has been pumping up like some really, really heavy hitters, or at least like big banner stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like this went under the radar.
Yeah, they put out like 10 shows a week. It's hard to overlook stuff.
Yeah. But Feel Good was I really, really enjoyed it. I think that it's very, very well balanced, very well nuanced, kind of look into, I mean, Mae Martin's fiction, her fictional character's life, right? At least I don't know how much of it is autobiographical. I didn't really read up on that. But like I love it when series aren't afraid, right, to go into messy places,
Yeah.
and to be able to kind of balance that out with kind of a very breezy lightheartedness from time to time, right, and then just kind of like diving into the deep end of like of addiction and asking some really like serious and important questions,
Mm-hmm.
and what it is to be queer, what it is to have a gender identity that you can claim and call your own, like all these things I feel were dealt in a very real and very visceral way,
Mm.
without it feeling like dark grim,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's like really rare, I think, most of the time, right? Like we've done a fair number of series, like anything from Aziz Ansari's
Master of None,
Master of None, we've done Rami, we've done
Fleabag,
Fleabag,
Atlanta,
yeah. So like
stuff like that.
we've done all of that, but I think this is the first queer one we've done. Is that right?
Let me think. Yeah, you're right about
Right,
that.
it's
It
the first
is.
queer one we've done, and like it's refreshing to kind of like see that, it's I think it's about time that comedy has comedy and comedians have been getting their due in terms of the airtime that they're getting with TV shows and things like that, and the stories that they want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice to kind of see Mae Martin getting out there and telling, stories that she wants to tell, and there are some very very good, very heartfelt and heart wrenching stories as well.
Yeah, I feel like with most of the dramedies that we've covered, that we mentioned, right? A lot of the emphasis is on the drama.
Yeah,
And I think Feel Good, the one area where Feel Good succeeds above all the other shows that we mentioned, and I include Barry in this, is that I think it is funnier
yeah,
than those shows. That
yeah.
it leads more towards the comedy. That's not to say that the drama is lacking in any way, like,
Hmm.
With George specifically, we see the problems with their relationship like quite swiftly. George is a quote unquote straight woman
Yeah.
who has never been in a lesbian relationship before. She's a lesbian virgin lah. In fact, she's so terrified of having her casually homophobic friends and family find out, that she literally makes May hide in a closet in one episode, like literally.
Yeah.
On the flip side, May has hidden her substance abuse issues from George lah. It's
Hmm.
kind of this decades long struggle that she's had that destroyed her relationships with her parents and past friends. And as George deals with the revelations of May's history, May must also contend with the difficult conundrum of dating someone who's too afraid to come out.
Yeah.
Although these concerns are kind of played for comedy at first, the laughs aren't really able to conceal the underlying toxicity of their relationship for very long.
Hmm.
May doesn't just feel inadequate; she is rightly alarmed that this could just be a passing phase, for George, who is her lover.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, George comes to the realization that May might not be in love with her so much as she's addicted to the idea of being in love.
Hmm.
As many addicts can attest, sometimes one addiction is replaced by another fixation.
Yeah.
So when May's history of chasing straight girls comes to light, the kind of rotten core of the love on both sides is manifested lah. There's plenty of evidence to show why they're ill matched despite their genuine connection. George goes so far as to invent a boyfriend for herself just to avoid telling her friends the truth. And
Yeah.
May displays all the jittery, obsessive signs of an addict missing her high the second that George asks for some personal space, right? Both parties have a ton of baggage that creates, stark and sometimes contradictory power imbalances in their relationship.
Hmm.
And the magic of Feel Good is that it captures the slightly weird, adorably sweet moments of a budding romance with as much depth and beauty as it does the confusion and the painful parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, like May's stand-ups on the on stand-up sets on the show. She's also playing stand-up comedian in the show. Feel Good kind of sharply minds the discomfort for humor and then uses that humor to confront difficult truths.
Hmm.
So unlike most romances on TV, this isn't one-sided. You don't take one side of the relationship or the other. Martin and co-creator Joe Hampson's kind of immaculate writing allows us to empathize with May and George and their respective neuroses and flaws and anxieties completely. I think each makes a variety of callous mistakes throughout the first season, but
Yeah.
their fully fleshed out humanity makes us understand and at least understand the root of every barb and every betrayal, however major or minor.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think like for such a short series, right? Just the character building alone and the way that the characters interact with each other is very kind of true to form, and so well done. It's like what, 6 episodes, 25 minutes each. It
Yeah.
really is very dense in terms of how quickly you get invested into May and her relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and how that kind of like plays out with like every difficulty that she has, right? And every kind of trauma that she needs to kind of like work through, with her parents and with her sponsor, with her new an A group. Like I love just how they manage to illuminate what kind of character they are and what kind of relationship they're having, while still it being comedic, while still dealing with the issues and all of that.
Mm.
Personally, I really like Phil.
Feels
uh
great. Yeah.
Phil is great, and it's just like one of those amazing characters that pops in almost like a Deus Ex Machina to insert a moment of humor or a word of truth and just kind of get the plot going.
Yep.
And I really love that. Lisa Kudrow as May's mom
Yeah.
is a standout role, I think, for me.
Yep.
It's so good. It's so good that way. But yeah, but all in all, like I really, really enjoy Feel Good. I do uh feel for a lot of the things. I mean, like I personally have somewhat of an addictive personality, so I
Mm.
understand what she's going through, and it's very interesting to kind of see her very sharp comedic wit being applied to her own situation, where she can kind of like call out where she's at, when
Mm-hmm.
they kind of like expand the definitions of addiction in her NA group, for example. But for her
Yes.
to struggle in its application of that awareness is something incredibly part of the human condition, and it just adds to the pathos. But at the same time, also the catharsis, right? As in when she has hit certain milestones in her own life and in her relationships as well.
Yeah, as you touched upon what you were saying earlier, feel good's ensemble of supporting characters, it's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
I think Lisa Kudrow continues her very very discerning post Friends career.
Yeah.
You should guys should watch The Comeback if you haven't. She's really good in that. Like with yet another role that's kind of equal parts hilarious and heartrending. She plays May's aloof mother with just the right amount of love and disappointment. And as you mentioned, Phil Burgess is positively lovable as
Mm.
George's off-putting but kind of well-meaning flatmate. If you've seen like Broad City, you kind of try to imagine Bevis with a higher EQ. I also really like Sophie Thompson as May's kooky NA sponsor Maggie,
Oh yeah.
whose tenuous relationship with her estranged daughter is very well developed and richly poignant. And on the occasions that it is forefront in the show, it kind of threatens to overshadow everything else on the series.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg. And leading actor wise, despite her very thin acting resume, I think Mae Martin is shockingly excellent as the anchor
I,
of the show.
I agree. I agree.
Uh,
I at no point in time do I she's got a lot of ticks, like her character has
mm,
a lot of ticks, but I never felt at any point in time that it was distracting or off-putting, right?
yeah,
She still feel really, really kind of well-rounded, and especially in the intense emotional scenes or in kind of like her fever dream moments, right? Like
yeah.
yeah, you can really, really feel it. Not just through her acting itself, but even the way like it's framed and the great music too.
Yes, yeah, great music too. I think May has this like quippy humor that is goofy and introspective. But, even as she teeters on a brink of a breakdown, I think
Uh-huh.
Martin remains unconventionally charming. Throwing in a well-timed joke to
Yeah.
to relieve tension when you least expect it. The timing of a comedy is great.
Yeah.
I think Richie is quite capable as George as well. On the flip side, she kind of exudes the innocent decency of a genuinely good person who just happens to be oblivious to how her heteronormative upbringing could subtly demean her girlfriend's self-esteem.
Yeah.
This show is far from a two-hander. That being said, there's a lot of great character actors on the
Mm-hmm.
supporting side as well. It's like you said, it's really remarkable that a series this brief, 6 episodes, 25 minutes or less sometimes,
Yeah.
can be so fully realized and emotionally detailed, where kind of every inch of it feels very achingly authentic and
Mm-hmm.
and resonant and relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, it's so strange that, the way that they chose to do it, because you have these side characters just coming in and out of May's life, right? And
Yep.
even then, they feel so palpable, right? They feel so well rounded out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Maggie's daughter,
Yeah.
or whether it's Kevin. But
Kevin. Yeah.
yeah, so like I mean, it's pretty amazing how well that they did that. It didn't feel over long. It didn't feel like unnecessarily dense. So it's so well balanced, and I think like that was a big part of me enjoying the series. Just how brief and well balanced it was gave me, what I wanted from the story and from the characters as well.
Yeah. Interestingly, this series is actually not any longer or shorter than any of the other dramedies I mentioned. Most of them
Yeah.
are between 6 to 10 episodes.
Hmm.
It's just that the way that Netflix releases it, is just 6 episodes at one time. It doesn't
Yeah.
have time to kind of build momentum and word of mouth over 6 weeks, rather
Yeah.
than like other shows.
That's true.
Yeah. Feel good. I think despite its name, it does not make you feel good. I have to emphasize that.
Uh,
It's a feel bad show, but
yeah.
it's extraordinarily humane in its exploration of this sexual identity and queer love and addiction, and the nakedness of the comedy will make you reconsider what feeling good means.
Yeah.
I think that's what the title is trying to imply.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. Definitely. That high recommend from both of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Any closing thoughts before we cap off
Is
with
there
Feel Good?
has there been any announcement or confirmation of like a second season? I mean, given
Yes.
how it ended.
Yeah, Feel Good actually just wrapped up its filming for season 2 in London. It started filming in February of last year, but obviously,
Yeah,
COVID shut down production for about 6-7 months. They picked it up again, I think September of last year, and have finished it. So they're in the throes of post production now. So you should see Feel Good season 2 coming soon, this year
ex-
at least.
excellent. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, same here, man. Very excited to see Mae Martin again, and hopefully, if you haven't caught up on Feel Good, you can find it on Netflix. Catch up on season 1. It's gonna take you less than two hours plus.
Yeah, yeah.
Combined running time. It's the length of a movie. It is shorter, I think, in total than Wonder Woman is. So give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, let's talk about a documentary that I stumbled upon on Nat Geo. My God, this was just such a random documentary that I stumbled upon. It's called City So Real, and it is a 5-part documentary directed by Steve James that looks at the city of Chicago and its residents as 21 candidates run for mayor in the Windy City
Um,
during the 2018 to 2019 mayoral elections. This was such a wire-esque, sprawling look at the ecosystem of a city
yeah.
that feels so observant and doesn't lead the narrative in any particular way. It really does feel like a non-fiction wire to me, like in terms of
Yeah.
a portrait of a city.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that like it's so easy to draw comparisons to The Wire for this.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of its scope, in terms of the breadth, and kind of depth they go into these very candid vignettes of people in the city.
Mm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It caught me by surprise. Like I was just putting it on, and I thought like, oh, okay, documentary. Let's see where this goes. I expected a lot more focus on the politicians themselves, and to be fair, there's a fair bit of that.
Yes.
But what I enjoyed most is just kind of people on the street, moments in the barbershop,
Mm.
family gatherings and things like that. That really I didn't expect to have so much of, and I didn't expect for that to be so eye opening in its own way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really kind of enjoyed this. I mean, like obviously, The Wire is a whole different monster in and of itself, but I mean, City So Real is pretty up there.
Yeah, yeah. But in like The Wire, like, it captures the sprawling tapestry of a city. Like it dives deep into the bureaucracy, the issues, the people, and what you mentioned. James kind of just sits quietly in barbershops and bars. He sits among protesters and police officers and
Yeah,
polling officials and judges. He hovers at penthouse parties and at press conferences and in courtrooms, and he just lets anyone that he comes across have their say. I
yeah,
think the result is like this very heartfelt, like humanist look at the strengths and divisions of an American metropolis, I guess.
yeah,
It's a kind of this loose yet elegant juxtaposition that pervades the surreal. That makes it very essential.
Mm-hmm.
While it's certainly binge worthy, I think the show is too dense to be binge optimal.
Yeah.
It's better to have kind of be space out your viewings. As I mentioned, at the center of it is the 2019 mayoral elections, in
Mhm.
which several candidates ended up on the ballot to replace Rahm Emanuel. But James has kind of more on his mind than just this one isolated event.
Yeah.
He spends like 4 episodes chronicling the election cycle and the people around it, and just everyday people, before jumping ahead a year in its final episodes to the early months of the COVID-19 crisis, which kind of turns out to be the perfect epilogue to the series, because
Mm.
it's kind of like this nice portrait of an iconic metropolis, and kind of this microcosm of the country
Yeah.
that's kind of teetering precariously on the brink of ruin, and also this endless cycle of picking the wrong person lah, to be your leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, and instead of bombarding viewers with statistics or infographics or newspaper clippings or expert commentators, like James just kind of assembles this varied collage of humanity. There's so much going on in each encounter,
Yeah.
like the men in the respective barbershops. The Chicagoans are members of various demographic groups, and are all unique individuals in themselves. So
Yeah.
just because two guys happen to share a racial identity and perhaps a zip code doesn't mean that their experiences and political views align.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes in the show is the young black man and the old black man discussing what it means to be black
Yeah.
in America. Yeah, it's such a great insight into people that is unobtrusive
Mm.
and observant, rather than like a more Vox or Vice type documentary that's trying to
Yeah.
lead you to a specific agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely noticed that as I was watching, right? Like a lot of the time with documentaries, there's always a spin to it, right? And the documentary maker himself or herself has a their own kind of inherent bias to those kind of stories that they want to tell, and that's kind of natural,
Mm-hmm.
when making film. But I think James did an incredible job, right? Like I think even just on the political front alone, him
Mm-hmm.
talking to the different constituents and who they supported, right? Everyone has really convincing arguments, right? At least from the point of view that they're coming from, and the context in which that they live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has really really convincing arguments, and to be able to see everyday people speak their mind and discuss their thoughts and views with other people civilly, some of the
Yeah.
time at least, right? That it feels like kind of a breath of fresh air, right? Like sure, there's the protesting and there's the shouting and there's the mudslinging and all of that shit show that goes along with politics. There's plenty of that, right? But there are
Mm-hmm.
much quieter moments that are so much more powerful because James decides to kind of like sit in. I think uh only at one point in time is the camera crew referred to in
Yes.
one of the barbershops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's quite a feat, I have to say. So if you want a really interesting snapshot of Chicago, um, and I by no means am familiar with Chicago or Chicagoans at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think this is a great series to watch.
Definitely, man. Like I love the variety of the candidates as well.
Yeah,
There is the entrenched establishment Democrat. There is the empowering kind of grassroots activist. There is even one of them. At least the most famous one on at least the most famous candidate lah.
yeah,
Kind of represents the dangers of millennial and Gen Z social media hype.
yeah,
It's I think Dr. Amara Enya, right?
yeah,
Is the one that gets support from Chicago hip hop stars like
yeah,
Chance the Rapper, and more controversially Kanye West. So there's a lot of young hype around her, and she's not a bad candidate by any means. So she's
yeah,
quite sharp, but
mhm,
the way that she approaches some of the issues and the way that she tackles PR crises clearly demonstrate that she is not ready for a
yeah,
position like this.
yeah,
And then like on the flip side, there is the Chicago Police Board resident Lori Lightfoot, initially a minor character in the ensemble. She's very
uh-huh,
like self-possessed straight shooting lesbian mother and electoral novice, and her hard fought upset victory makes her the city's first black woman and LGBTQ mayor, right?
Yep.
It seems like a triumph, at least at first lah. But on of all the candidates, I was really taken by this guy called Neil Sales
Oh
Griffin.
yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say.
Yeah, he seemed to me, he had the lowest number of votes, but he seemed to me like the most genuine guy out there of the entire field.
Yep. Yeah. I think for me, like what drew me to Neil was just his smarts, right? Like the way he presented things and the way he went about things. The way he
Yeah,
argued his point.
handing out the receipts was great.
Yeah, the tax receipt thing is brilliant. It's such a brilliant idea, and it's so simple in its execution.
Mhm.
But like I'm sure he won quite a few votes just for that. But he being outside of the political system, right? Like
Yep.
he's not really been in the game and all of that. Like it's very hard for him to kind of like um I think in one of the episodes they're saying like, at the end of the day, this is a game and you have to you basically, have to be in it in order to win it. And he's kind of an outsider that way, which made me want to root for him. But
Mm.
of course, him coming from like a much younger black man with entrepreneurial experience, and he understands growing business and growing communities and things like that. Like that felt like what people need, right? Like
Mm.
that felt what the city needed, at least in the way that it was framed. And yeah, I mean, I wish, right? I would have voted for him, honestly. But then again, that's with my own kind of bias towards that kind of person, like that kind of representative.
And specifically his policies as well,
Yeah, exactly.
which are incredibly progressive. The thing is, literally everyone of the candidates are Democrats. This is a strong Democrat hold.
Yeah.
Uh, that doesn't mean that the Democratic Party doesn't have its issues. Clearly,
Oh yeah.
there is. I mean, just because you're a Democrat-controlled city doesn't mean there are going to be issues. They're not going to be issues with Black Lives Matter. In fact, one of the biggest issues presence in the show or in the documentary and in Chicago still right now is the cover-ups of police killings of black men.
Yeah.
It's still happening, has happened, and the stuff that they were covering here in City Surreal was kind of pre George Floyd, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
You know,
You're only going to see the George Floyd stuff in the later episodes, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the main issue that affected Chicago was a separate murder that happened before George Floyd, and it has happened a lot, and it will continue to happen. Sadly, and just the way that some people are so cynical about it, even the kind of black politicians
Yeah.
running for office, it's a bit sad, And then they also deal with issues of something that we don't think of as sexy, stuff like real estate,
Mm,
the gentrification of the city,
yeah.
the different places where the different ethnic minorities live and how they can't afford to live there anymore, or gig bars. I mean, I'm sure like being a musician, seeing like small dive bars kind of being subsumed by condos,
Yeah.
shopping malls, parking lots, that kind of thing. The famous Lincoln Yards, $6 billion high-rise construction project, like that's kind of transforming the area from industrial zone and blue collar workers to a yuppie paradise.
Hmm.
It seemingly encountered no real opposition from the political establishment,
Yeah.
which clearly implies that I mean, some of them are being supported lah by whoever's running Lincoln Yards, right?
Mhm.
Like the founders of the DIY punk venue I was talking about
Oh
in
yeah.
Wilson, that largely Latinx community that may be on its way to becoming another gentrified area lah.
Mhm.
It's quite sad, yeah, I mean the approach on looking at the police, looking even at COVID-19 in its final episode,
Yeah.
was great. Were you surprised by the sudden shift into COVID-19? I suppose like not shouldn't be surprised if you followed it to that point. COVID-19 had to be addressed, right?
Yeah, I mean, like if you're keeping an eye out for the dates that they give every once in a while, right? Like as they kind of like bridge arcs
Yep.
together, it's on the back of your mind, right? Like you already see a city that is caught up in all these internal issues that they've been going through for years, and then on top of that, like this mayoral election becomes like a trigger point, a tipping point, right?
Mm-hmm.
A watershed moment in which, yeah, for all intents and purposes, all the candidates say the same things, but it's a historic moment for change.
Yeah.
Then to buckle that together with COVID coming in and
Mm.
all the kind of different decisions that the new mayor
Yeah.
The light, you know,
Lori Lightfoot.
Lori Lightfoot, who eventually wins. No spoilers.
Hmm.
Um, just to see how she tackles it is very interesting. I really wonder, should the pandemic not have happened, right,
Mm.
or this had been at a slightly different time, would the last episode had that kind of pathos to it, right? Like,
Mm.
because the consequences are so much more exaggerated,
Mm.
or at least so much more salient, right, in our eyes, because it's something that we're living through right now, right, and it's something that we see on the news constantly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think like very much the last episode was just supposed to be like, okay, so like in the run up to the mayoral election, this is everything that has happened, and these what people's decisions were, and then this is the after effects of that. But to couple that with the effects of COVID, right,
Mm.
just made it like so much more harsh.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, that the approach of Lori Lightfoot and everyone else, and then the approach of even Neil Sales Griffin in the aftermath of COVID, he's
Yeah.
handing out masks in community centers and things like that. It just really made me sad that Neil didn't win. He clearly was the best guy.
Yeah.
At least the documentary showed us that. Everyone here was kind of painted very much like humans. That
Yeah.
like you understood where they were coming from, even
Yep.
if you disagreed with their point of view. But is there anyone that struck out to you as like villainous?
Villainous. Oh my god, I really didn't like Tony Periwinkle.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had this almost, I don't know, very witch like
Mm-hmm.
persona, and I don't know if that was intentional, because we don't really hear from her personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
At any one point in time, it's always about the campaign. It's always about like the script that she's following, and she is,
Yeah, that scene where she's just following the script, like
yeah,
regardless of the questions, was insanely tone deaf.
yeah. I didn't understand that. Like, someone is literally, I mean, they were raising their voice. I wouldn't say they were screaming,
Yeah.
but she literally looks back down at the script, and I'm like, you have an answer for that on your script? How is that possible? And then later on you find out that she's the Democratic Party leader in Chicago,
Yep. Yeah.
right? And then of course there's another sexual assault scandal within her ranks and all of that. Like, at no
Yeah.
point in time did she feel like she should have taken over, and it was really scary in the beginning when she was leading the polls.
Yes.
Even the Daily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daily third generation mayoral candidate. I mean, sure, he reeks of corporate America and old money and all the entitlement that goes with that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he felt evil. You
Yep.
know, even the ex police chief didn't feel evil.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a lot of kind of valid points as well. I think, like, it's not just police brutality that's kind of on the venue, right? There's so many more like systemic problems involved in that, above and beyond just like looking at the police, right? And the
Y-
funding for that. Sure. So they made all very, very arguments, but I really didn't like Tony Periwinkle. I think like they didn't shed very good light on her. But at the
Mm.
same time, it's also because I don't think they had access to her in the way that like Lori Lightfoot gave, in the way that Neil gave, in the way that
Amaya.
Mara gave. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so we got to see a lot into like their lives, and have them address some really kind of pressing questions, right? Like, Amara was kind of called to task
Mm-hmm.
for her previous kind of job history, and just like kind of very basic discipline stuff.
Yeah, and also Kanye West.
And yeah,
Didn't help.
and Kanye West, and like all of that. And it's nice to see politicians in that kind of light, right? Especially, I mean, it definitely does help humanize them.
Yep.
And I think for me, what really kind of like what I was surprised by is when Laurie's house gets surrounded by protesters, right? And she
Mm.
refuses to come out and kind of address that. And
Mm-hmm.
later on, she explains like, look, it's a very simple thing.
Mm.
That's my home, right? I'm a
Yeah.
politician, but I am human too, and my family doesn't need to be exposed to that.
Mm.
And that's a very real thing, right?
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
completely understand her decision not to address the crowd while they were
Uh,
protesting outside her home.
and at the flip side, also you totally understand the anger of the crowd, and why they felt they had to resort to that. It's a
Yeah,
complicated thing, and politics is a complicated thing,
yeah.
especially when you're dealing in politics in a clearly broken system, where
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot of good, smart people trying to make good choices and trying to compromise where they can. But it's never good enough when the system is so flawed.
Yeah.
It's really great. I honestly I could have happily watched 10 hours of City So Real. It never felt like it dragged,
Yeah.
and it never makes bureaucracy or procedure look boring.
Yeah.
It doesn't pretty anything up. It's an advertisement for the city of Chicago and urban planning alike. Like how important is urban planning in an urban city like that.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic look at it's a fantastic microcosm of America in general.
Yeah.
It's really really great. Like Chicago aspires to be this global tourist city, or is it more of a Midwestern city with neighborhoods? What is the outside perception of Chicago? I know,
Yeah.
north side is rich, south side is black, but this one it delves into the neighborhoods in the middle, the neighborhood in the west, the neighborhood in the east.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like places that you don't know about, where Muslims live, where Latinx people live. It's fantastic. This is one of the best documentaries I saw last year. I think it ended up in my top 10, and I was shocked because I didn't encounter this until December. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it would make that much of an impact on me.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm really, really kind of blown away, right? Like, and it's very difficult not to draw comparisons to The Wire. Which if you guys haven't watched, we've talked about that at length with guest Charlie Lim.
Yeah.
A couple of episodes ago, so you can go check that out as well. But City So Real is such a good documentary. Like I feel like I know so much more, right? And at the end of the day, like it's so rare to kind of have such a objective look at things, right? At least more objective than some other documentaries of similar ilk that I've seen.
Yeah. I feel it's an absolutely essential 5-part documentary that you should watch. It's a very like a noble, heartfelt, eye-opening look at the American city, kind of with a big scope, but also very human, but also very warm.
Yeah.
It's impressively wide scope, but the thing that really makes it sparkle is this small moments, the small human moments among both the politicians and the regular everyday people in restaurants and barbershops and things like that. There's so much sweeping ambition to encapsulate the city of Chicago in one series, in one docu-series, in all its beauty and in all its ugliness at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think it does a great job of making Chicago look great and making Chicago look horrible. It's both, because it's both, like it's a great city and a bad city.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I think it kind of like sums up there's one Latin gentleman that they interviewed in the first episode, right? And he says, "I love the city, but the city is trash." And that kind of like sums up the entire series. Like so much love for the city, so many people so passionate about Chicago. But I mean, wow, there are these moments when you're just like, what the hell is going on?
They're like small moments of unity amongst everyone, like black, white, all the candidates. It's when Chicago sports teams win.
Yeah.
Like you see, there's like this is one like brief truce moment. I think in episode 3 or 4 when like I think the Chicago baseball team won.
Yeah.
And then everybody was just like, woo! So yeah, there is unity in Chicago, and sports can do that in many places, and it's great because I think a lot of cities and countries around the world is like Chicago. There are good parts. You can love your country, but the only way you can truly love your country is to address what's wrong with your country also, or your city.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why City So Real is a great watch. If you have Net Geo, please go watch it. I do know that Disney Plus is coming to Singapore on February 23rd, and Net Geo is part of the Disney Plus bundle. So if you're signing up to Disney Plus to watch Mando, to watch WandaVision, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, or stuff like that, give City So Real a shot.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be talking about all those other shows as well. So why not hop in and watch City So Real for something different?
Yeah, because it comes with it for free if you have it. Next up, let's talk about Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet. Raven's Banquet is the subtitle for the first season of Mythic Quest. It delves into a video game studio that does one of the more popular MMORPG games in the world that they created.
Yeah.
And you're much more of a bigger gamer than I am. But this show actually, really captivated me, even though I'm not a gamer. It comes to you from the team that brought you It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so it already has a good pedigree there. As far as sitcoms go, this came out way back last year in January, and it still sticks in my head. I think overall Mythic Quest as a show It's a very good show, but doesn't quite get into greatness,
Yeah.
except you see moments of greatness that show that what it can be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strange conundrum because this show did not make my top 25. It was in my top 50, but it's not in my top 25.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to make the best episodes of 2020 list, number 1 and 2 belong to Mythic Quest. We'll get to those specific
Yeah,
episodes
yeah.
later. Let's get your opinions on Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet, and how did season 1 do?
Yeah, so I mean I've heard whisperings about Mythic Quest ever since it was in development and when it kind of came out, but I never actually got to it until we were gonna do this review.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of because like I don't know, there was plenty of other things to watch, and like I started gaming again like when COVID hit and all of that. I was just like, oh, I don't really know if I want to like add another thing that relates to gaming onto my plate.
Yeah.
Kind of that. But oh man, Mythic Quest is hilarious because of those things. Because of the
Yeah.
fact, like I'm a bit more keyed in to what games are out and what the game studios are like, and then these days at least, right, you get these kind of like cult as figures from each kind of studio who kind of speaks on behalf of the company and on behalf of the community and things like that. So to be
Like
able to,
Iron lah. Yeah.
yeah, so the thing is that I mean I started playing WoW again after like 10
Mm-hmm.
years of taking a break
Mm-hmm.
when COVID hit. And the lead game director of World of Warcraft's name is also Ian.
I'm sure that was done on purpose.
Yeah, so okay, so his name the in real life, right? His name is spelled Ion, like Ion, right?
Yeah.
But it's pronounced Ian.
Yeah.
And then in the show, his name is spelled
Like
Iron,
Iron.
and then like Iron. Yeah, so like it's a complete flip side, and like there's some really, really obvious kind of like they do throw some shade in that direction. They do make fun of. I mean, there have been a couple of things that have happened in World of Warcraft over the years that they does get referred to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty funny in that way. Like there are a lot of little things that you kind of catch on, and of course, like there's the greater kind of like meta discussion about gamer culture and what it's like, the toxic fandom that seemingly comes along with that.
The YouTube channels
And
that prop.
oh my god, the streamer ones are so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think there's been a time that it's been more real than that, right? Like with the rise of streaming, with everybody getting isolated at home.
Yeah. Twitch or YouTube gameplay channels are
Yeah,
prevalent. Yeah.
yeah, but like how much power streamers have these days is pretty insane, and I think like Mythic Quest captured a lot of that very succinctly and very humorously. So
Mm-hmm.
like I was laughing a lot, I think, throughout watching the entire thing. Whether or not it's a true kind of snapshot into what game development is like, that I'm not sure. I don't have enough kind of like reference to that, or even have enough friends in game development. I have a few, but not enough to kind of like speak to whether or not it's true.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think like Mythic Quest kind of you don't need to be a gamer to understand kind of like the work comedy that they're trying to put out, right?
Yeah,
Like
in essence, it's similar to like The Office or something like that. Like a workplace attire is workplace attire. Like it's
yeah,
just that the power dynamics in the video game industry is a bit different.
yeah, and some of them really specific, but I mean it's nothing that you can't get over or learn
Yep.
along the way. you know
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it really was really very fun. I think just kind of like laughing along and laughing with them, with all these very kind of little niche things that I think at least I think that only gamers would know, but at the same time having a lot of like universal truths coming out
Mm-hmm.
about like the politics in the office and just like human relationships at the workplace in general, and I think they captured that really well.
Yeah, it actually captured like my favorite line in all of 2020 in any TV actually came from one of the episodes where they were dealing with a group of Nazis that form a clan in a game.
Yeah.
And then they were supposed to craft a press release, basically basically apologizing, lah. And then my favorite line came from the old sci-fi writer, CW Longbottom. The line went. I'm paraphrasing here. The line was, "So are we apologizing to or for the Nazis?" It's so hilarious.
It's so good. I particularly like what's his name? Murray
CW,
Abraham? Yeah, CW
yeah.
Longbottom. Oh my god. He is
You see,
so funny.
you see, I may not know much about the gaming culture, but I know sci-fi writers.
Yeah.
especially the old one. The way that he carries his Hugo Award around everywhere
Oh
is
my god,
hilarious.
this is so
Yeah,
funny.
I won this Hugo Award for a novel I wrote in the 70s, and then like nothing after that.
Yeah.
I think his reaction to I think Red Dead Redemption's cutscenes.
Oh my god. It was so funny. I mean, like that, and like the whole arc where he was threatened. What's Danny Putty's character? Brad.
He, yeah, Brad,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So Brad was threatening to replace him with the AI robot.
which is
It's
an
one of my favorite arcs of the series.
which turned out to be an air conditioner, but
Yeah.
CW Longbottom doesn't know that.
Yeah, but it's so good. It's so good. And I mean, like, they play upon his age and all of that and all the tropes that come with that, especially
Mhm.
in the quarantine episode. But oh my god. Yeah, I mean, like, the characters are fascinating, I think,
Yeah.
right? As much as they feel like caricatures of what it could possibly be in real life, like, they play it up to such great aplomb that it's hard not to laugh, right? It's
hmm
hard not to laugh. It's hard not to feel for some of the people who are in the position they're in.
Yeah, I like those are the kind of side characters, and I think with every sitcom or comedy, you need to kind of build out everyone,
Yeah,
everyone is side characters. I've come to love everyone in Parks and Rec. I've come to love everyone in The Office and stuff like that, like all Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
yeah,
Like Hitchcock and Scully, are minor characters, but I love them too. Similarly, like Danny Pudi, Brad, the corporate shark, and everyone else are kind of minor characters. But the crux of Mythic Quest kind of deals with the relationship between Ian let's call him Ian because
yeah.
his name is really Ian and Poppy,
Hmm.
which is kind of Ian's real secret weapon. She's like this brilliant young programmer who spends half her time trying to corral, I think, Ian's more ludicrous instincts.
Yeah,
I think like the actress that plays Charlotte Nickdow is really good at making Poppy the voice of reason
yeah,
uh, in this weird workplace environment. She's the show's anchor and immediate standout because she isn't some basic annoyed voice she isn't a wet blanket lah.
uh,
Like she's ambitious, smart, and power hungry, and sometimes weird in her own right.
yeah,
But at her best, or at least at her funniest, she's enraged as she is constantly trying to prove herself. I mean, number one, being a female programmer in a male environment, and
yeah,
number two, dealing with the insanity that is Ian lah. And trying to make her own mark in Mythic Quest beyond making Ian's dreams come true, like trying to find some passion in her
yeah,
life lah. And I think the way that they dealt the relationship between Ian and Poppy starts up very broad, very funny, very like kind of absurdist,
yeah,
and then it kind of delves into who they are as people. And I think where the show really succeeds, even more so than the workplace comedy aspects, even more so than the video game satire aspects, is the creation, if the is the fully fleshing out of Ian and Poppy as people.
yeah. Absolutely. Like, I think when they start getting into that territory, it is so surprising, right?
Mm,
Because it kind of sneaks up on you. And like, but the end, by episode 8 or episode 9, right, you start to kind of really feel for them. What is surprising is, like, I like Poppy from the get go, right? Like,
mhm,
such a such an adorable character, and complex as well. But
mhm.
Ian's character was something that I really did not imagine myself liking.
Yeah, I mean, you're not supposed to, at least at first.
Yeah, but after that, like, when they kind of humanize him, they kind of bring him back down to earth, like, past this whole, like, oh, I'm the fucking creative director of the game, this is my vision, this is my game. Once we get past that, right, like, I mean, I think oh, what's the actor's name? Rob.
Rob McElhenney.
Yeah, I think he did a
McElhenney, yeah.
great job with that transition, from
Mhm.
going to, like, this egotistical power, kind of hungry um director caricature into something really kind of human and palpable and understandable, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm still not a fan of his character, but still, like,
Yeah.
how he and Poppy kind of negotiate and kind of come to terms, I think, with their very long term personal and work relationship.
Mhm.
I think is one of the best parts of Mythic Quest.
Yeah, one of the more interesting aspects of Mythic Quest is that when we start to understand Ian better as a human being, and when we even start to feel a bit of empathy for him,
Yeah.
we also, on the flip side, do also want Poppy to kind of break out of
Mm.
the toxicity of that relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one particular scene that is very funny, but also very quite heartbreaking at the same time. Is when I don't want to kind of spoil the joke, but it's basically alluded to that Ian treats Poppy like a dog.
Yeah,
And she looks at the other car and sees this the dog waiting for owner, right?
yeah, yeah,
That was a great moment that really like showed Poppy like maybe now it's time for me to break out of this.
yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to because I kind of value their friendship too as well.
I mean, like they do make. Well, I mean, obviously, the Mythic Quest doesn't exist in the real world, but it feels like they do have these moments of magic, right?
Mm-hmm,
They're real, but that doesn't lessen the fact that it is an incredibly toxic relationship.
mm-hmm.
So when she does get approached by other,
A rival game company lah.
yeah, like other opportunities, right? Like a part of me was like, yeah, go be free, like go like explore your own thing,
Mm-hmm,
and then obviously the counter offer comes from the inside again, and like you don't know, you want her to succeed, but at the same time, like there's a lot of work left to be done in their relationship.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was just kind of one of the things that left me feeling a bit, I want to see it resolved for sure, but I mean, there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's get into kind of the big standout episodes of the
Yeah,
season.
yeah,
Number one was a big tonal and ambitious creative swing with
yeah,
Mythic Quest. Was that in episode 5, entitled "A Dark, Quiet Death"? Um, After 4 episodes of following the workplace and the woes of the hectic video game company, Mythic Quest abruptly changes course in episode 5
yeah,
because it doesn't follow any of its main characters, but rather focuses on two previously unseen, unintroduced developers named Doc, played by Jake Johnson, and Bean, played by Kristen Milotti. It's a jarring change of pace, but Doc and Bean's intertwining love story, their passion and art and corporate compromise, the age old money versus art argument
yeah,
stands as one of the most must watch episodes of 2020.
mhm,
And the reason that Mythic Quest did this is to kind of offer a bridging allegorical episode for the show.
yeah,
This was where the show turned from more comedy to more drama. This is where you can foreshadow the turning point of Ian and Poppy's relationship, like, through this
yeah,
allegorical story. It's such a great idea. It's set back in the 90s,
uh,
and it was written by Rob McElhenney himself. And alongside his sister, actually, Katie. It starts roughly 25 years before the events of the show, so it's a prequel.
mhm.
In a video game store from from the 90s, goth and death loving young woman, who is Kristen Milotti, meets the awkward game producer. It's kind of a meet cute. Little do they realize that they're kind of tame flirting over a video game will change their lives forever.
Yeah,
So over the half an hour, Mythic Quest details the birth and death of a dream. This angry and deeply nihilistic being craves a game that resonates with her,
yeah,
and Doc promises her to make that dream come true. So together they set out to create a game that mirrors her view of the world, one in which the only thing you can do is evade the darkness
yeah,
and monsters, and you just have to run. Immediately it's clear that at first, like, Dark Quiet Death game is more than just a fun project for Bean. It's her
yeah,
worldview actualized. And then her boyfriend, who is a bit more practical, a bit more money minded, a bit more aware of success and what you need to do to compromise in the video game corporate world, starts to kind of tweak her game a bit to make it
mhm.
a bit more palatable for
Yeah,
for developers, for consumers and stuff like that. And that's where their relationship dissolves. It comes to a point where somebody makes a terrible video game adaptation of a beloved, obscure, a dark game that is nothing like the game itself. I think this is such a great microcosm of the birth and death of art, and the whole argument, art versus commerce.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really, really love that episode. I think one of the most pivotal moments that I really kind of felt very strongly about is near the end, right, where
Mhm.
he's talking with his brand manager, and his brand manager, and he's like, where do we draw the line, and I want to keep this as it is, and then the brand manager goes, yeah, sure, you're the boss, right? We've been
Yep.
following you all this time. Like that really I've had some personal relationships where that really felt very, very
Mm.
real. Yeah. So like it's such a great episode, and it feels like I would seriously watch a spin-off of that, all right,
Hmm.
because it is fascinating. And I understand like a lot of the punch of the episode has to do with its brevity.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, if they would ever to think about like having a spin-off and kind of like expanding that, I would love to see that because there's so much to talk about, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the episode is so focused on the kind of the marketing aspects of gaming, also.
Yeah.
That people can kind of overlook that it's not just about watching the rise and fall of a game. It's kind of the rise and fall of a relationship as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you pour your passion and your heart into something, be it a relationship or a video game or any form of art, I think the output is incredible. But also, what it does to you as a person is very remarkable for good and bad.
Yeah.
So it's a really affecting, remarkable episode, both as a love story and both as a story about art versus commerce.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Uh,
mean,
and
such a
even had like it had a huge laugh out loud moment at the end, when I saw the video game adaptation. It was
yeah.
hilarious because all video game adaptations are like that.
Yeah. 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 Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this at this point of the episode and you're curious about Mythic Quest, if nothing else, just watch A Dark Quiet Death.
Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, out of the entire series, like this is the episode that's worth watching,
Hmm.
more than anything else. And I think hopefully it will convince you to catch everything else as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole ebb and flow of A Dark Quiet Death's rise and inception and success and their relationship, and how the boyfriend kind of relies on focus groups and market research more than the brilliant dark fucking weirdo that he loves. He starts chipping away at her vision, and eventually kind of the truly unique horror game that she made, and analogy for depression that
Yeah.
they built together, is stripped down into another soulless blockbuster hit. I mean, if that doesn't sell you, and if you're a gamer, I don't know what does. Like, it's such a great story.
Hmm.
And as you said, I would love to watch a spin-off of this, but this is kind of similar to another Kristen Milotti thing from last year, Palm Springs, whereby like I enjoyed her relationships in Palm Springs and A Dark Quiet Death so
yeah.
much. But I also saw that it was the perfect story for what it was, a perfect single story like that doesn't need a continuation. But I just like love her character so much in both
yeah.
shows, that like I want to see more of it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I mean, like we got a great episode, right? And I have no
Mhm.
complaints about that. But I mean, I wouldn't mind if it was small.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Next up is actually kind of a bonus episode that Mythic Quest released, I think, let's see, 7 months after the season finale, which was interesting. It was
Yeah.
kind of a coronavirus episode where it was kind of shot over Zoom, and I know a lot of shows were kind of doing this at that time.
Hmm.
I think Parks and Rec was one of the first few to do it. As feel good as it wasn't actually a very good episode. It was nice. Like, it was nice to see, like Leslie Knope and stuff like hang out for old friends, but I felt like throughout the entire time when a bunch of shows were doing like a bunch of COVID Zoom episodes,
Yeah.
they were just not good. They had a gimmick there, but they just didn't have a spark to it. They didn't have a real reason to do it.
Yeah.
And I think Mythic Quest Quarantine, what they did here is, this is coronavirus's first and only masterpiece that was shot on Zoom.
Yeah.
There was once a time, right? Like, actors rarely, if ever, were asked to look into the lens of a camera. But now, in this particular age, we're kind of relying on screens for human connection,
yeah.
even if it's a fictional character. And I like that instead of just being just another hangout thing, they decided to kind of satirize or mock the idea of workplace Zoom meetings,
Oh my god. Yeah.
which I've been involved in so many times, and I think everybody over the last year has been involved in, and
Yeah.
has had their share of frustrations with. And what Mythic Quest did with this particular Zoom workplace meeting isn't just comedy gold; it's also dramatic gold. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like, how much can we talk about without really spoiling it? Honestly.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about broadly. Like, it has so many great moments.
Yeah.
I Well, I mean, obviously, like the moment of triumph at the end comes with a collaborative Zoom thing that they do together.
Mm.
It's one of the most joyous things I saw during the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Also, one of the most heartbreaking things was, I think, the continuation of Poppy and Ian's relationship.
Yeah.
As well. I think Poppy specifically was kind of the star of Mythic Quest Quarantine. Her depression, her loneliness during the early stages of COVID,
Yeah.
uh, really helped. illustrate fictionally what we all were feeling. Everyone else was trying to make happy-go-lucky, joyful. Let's like try to take your mind off it. I think Mythic Quest. What the reason why it succeeds was because it didn't ignore it. It didn't ignore the psychological impact of those early days of COVID.
Yeah.
And Poppy was the character that felt it the worst.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that one scene, her breakdown scene, which is
Yeah.
just audio, mind you, was
Yes, or
amazing. It was
yeah.
absolutely amazing. I really felt that. And yeah, it's crazy how much again like they managed to squeeze into this single episode. You know, like you get to revisit all your favorite characters and their relationships there, right? But wow, between Poppy and Yen, damn, like a lot progresses in the short span of this, and it's kind of the highlight of the entire
show.
of the
Yeah.
entire show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's shocking that Mythic Quest actually made its best episode as kind of a bonus, like something that they just thought of while they were bored in quarantine.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
just decided to do it. And I think what differentiates Mythic Quest Quarantine from other installments is that it exists fully in the moment that we're in at that time. It doesn't bother with false hope.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also still packed with great jokes, from like CW, who is struggling with technology that now keeps us all connected. I think Brad engaging in a not so friendly Street Fighter competition.
Yeah.
It also showcases the ways in which we're all adapting to the strange new normal and the sort of
Yeah.
beautiful creative acts that people are exploring during lockdown. It doesn't stop you from being creative.
Yeah.
But it also gets raw about the situation in so many unexpected ways, anchored largely, as I mentioned, by Poppy. And in these moments, it really allows us to feel for these characters in a way that maybe we aren't letting ourselves feel at that moment ourselves.
Yeah.
I think I watched the episode for the first time live, like the day it came out, and
Mhm.
and I haven't stopped thinking about the way it managed to say things that I had been having trouble articulating.
Yeah.
And the final moment of triumph, the triumphant sequence at the end, the Rube Goldberg sequence, made me feel better while still remaining truthful to the state of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. It is. I mean, like, definitely the best Zoom sequence I've seen, Zoom thing that I've seen. I
Zoom
mean,
episode.
Zoom
Yeah.
episode. I mean, one kind of did something pretty cool too, but like nothing kind of like with the impact that this had.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And it also still progresses character relationships.
Yeah.
You see what happened in the aftermath of Ian and Poppy's agreement at the season finale. Things like that. Yeah, it's heavy stuff that's sandwiched into a hilarious ride through like countless
Yeah.
zany video calls.
Yeah.
And the Street Fighter Showdown was fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, CW is always fun. I love anything that CW does.
It's so
He's so great. He's the one character that I really understand because I come from that world.
yeah, yeah. I really, really love his character. Like he's so much of a sore thumb, right? Like it's insane that it works. Like his presence in the series works so well, despite the fact that he's such a sore thumb.
Yeah, I know, right? With a group of other millennials and Gen Z people who are technologically savvy, and then you have CW there, like clutching his Hugo Award from 1970.
The moment that he has with not Dana, who's the other girl, the other tester.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Is it Rachel? Yeah, Rachel. Yeah, the moment that he has with Rachel, right, as they were just kind of discussing gameplay versus cutscenes, right,
Yeah.
and the whole idea of like story and triumph and all of that, like that has been, oh my god. I mean, I used to work with games, not in games necessarily, but with games. That was a conversation slash argument that I've had so many times over so many like coffees and dinners and things like that. So to see that kind of like play out, it was really fun.
Exactly. I think of all the shows that we've ever covered on Behold or Genre, Mythic Quest feels to me like the show that was most born for this moment.
Yes, I agree.
Season 1, it explores the complex nature of the online community, moody gamers, online trolls, customer service snafus, stuff like that. And they all collectively form a vibrant new ecosystem that only looks like a punchline on the surface until you delve deeper into the people and how this works. And then right at the end of it, they become timelier than ever with the first ever coronavirus masterpiece that really delves into the psychological implications of it, like Mythic Quest is really a show of now
Yeah,
more than any other show that I've seen lately lah.
yeah, most Zeitgeist show for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You can find it on Apple TV Plus, man. This is a really really great show, and I highly encourage it. It's this is so weird because Mythic Quest had a lot of hype
Yeah.
early last year.
Hmm.
It's just that nobody I knew had seen it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of think it's like Apple TV,
Yeah, it's
right?
Apple TV.
You
Yeah.
know, and I don't know if that's gonna change for now, but I mean, like you said in last episode that we were just talking about, right? Like Apple TV has so many good things going on right now,
Mm-hmm.
and if you already own an Apple product, then why not, right? Especially like
Correct.
it's free for the first year or something like that.
Yeah, if you have an Apple product that you have bought, you can it comes with a promo code for Apple TV Plus. It's free for 12 months.
Yeah,
That's the best deal I've ever heard of, man.
yeah, and
Like they're
yeah,
almost using Apple TV Plus as a marketing to sell Apple products.
which is pretty insane, right? Considering like the kind of stuff that they've been putting out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you have an iPhone, you've got a MacBook, or you're thinking about getting one, like you can spend part of that 12 months just watching Mythic Quest, and we promise you won't regret it. Gamer or not.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Gamer or not, yeah, correct. Because I'm not a big gamer. I have played games, and I know people in the culture, and I understand the broad strokes lah of the culture, but I'm not super into it. But yeah, even that gave me like a not just a better understanding, but also a appreciation for the culture.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we cap it off, we ended the last episode with your most anticipated, I think, films of 2021.
Yeah.
Do you have any most anticipated TV shows of 2021 that you're like
Oh,
dying to watch?
I mean, like WandaVision has started already.
Correct. Yeah.
So, oh man, so far it's been nuts. It's been nuts. I'm really enjoying that.
Mhm.
So I'm really looking forward to kind of the rest of the season playing out. What else is coming out this year of note?
Um, Barry Jenkins has a mini series. Barry Jenkins, of course, on Moonlight, and
Mm.
if Bill Street Could Talk, has a mini series on Amazon called The Underground Railroad. It's a long-awaited adaptation of a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. It's kind of a semi-fantastical story following a slave named Cora
Uh-huh.
as she escapes to the north using a literal underground railroad. Not the metaphorical underground railroad. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as well. I'm not actually sure whether it's genre. It sounds like it is, but we'll
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean,
I, I
I will
guess
find a way to fit it in either Behold or Behold.
yeah, we can always do it on Behold if it's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. I did catch the first episode of New Batwoman. That looks pretty
Oh, how
good.
was it? I didn't watch that one.
Um, this new girl that they've casted, I think she's doing pretty
Mm.
well. I mean, she's
Okay.
she's leagues ahead of Ruby Rose. So I don't
Yes.
know. Again, it's kind of like a repilot, right, of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it looks pretty good. I don't know what direction they're gonna go. Hopefully, it's not gonna be kind of like grimdark. I would love to kind of see like a more campy version of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what else comes out.
I'm looking forward to three big returns.
Yeah.
Number one is I think it's been, 4 years, but Atlanta is back this year.
Oh, really? Nice,
Uh, and it's been 2 years since Barry, and Barry is back this year.
nice.
And it's been 2 years since a show that I really love called Succession. So Succession season 3 is back for this year. So those are the three big HBO shows I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to that's coming back. Something that I'm curious about, I wouldn't say excited lah,
Mhm.
but I'm curious about is obviously the Snyder Cut lah,
Yeah.
which is being treated as a 4-hour miniseries, although he keeps calling it a movie. But if you're really, and the same thing with Small X, I'm tired of these like things who are releasing 1 hour episodes weekly, saying that like, oh, we are actually a movie. No, fuck off. You're doing TV.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just not. I mean, I really want to see what it's gonna be like long form, right? Not a
Yeah.
huge fan of Snyder, not a huge fan of what he's done with the franchise.
Mm.
But I mean, fans called for blood, and blood is what they're gonna get. So we'll see where it goes. I think it's important enough for us to watch and discuss
Mhm.
what the outcome of that is gonna be like. But I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to that necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? What else? Witcher, the new season of Witcher is gonna be coming out this year as
Mm.
well. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Can't have too much Henry Cavill going
Yeah.
around. I think Snowpiercer's coming back.
So Pierce is coming back definitely.
Westworld is coming back.
Westworld, I'm not sure.
Is it not confirmed yet?
Uh, it's supposed to be slated, but they haven't finished filming, so I don't know like, whether they can get it done in time.
Okay, yeah, and I think other than that, for me, it really is kind of the slate of stuff that Marvel TV is coming out with. Well, at
Nope.
least WandaVision, Loki, and probably
Uh,
What If, but I'm not so sure about
Falcon Winter Soldier.
yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier looks okay. I'm not.
Yeah, it looks fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it will appeal to people who are looking for what is gonna for that specific kind of like action genre, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with what WandaVision is doing right now, I'm just kind of blown away. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
really high bar
Yes,
he's
correct.
setting right out of the gate, and I really want to see where they go with it.
Yeah. One show I did want to mention was a show that was I really liked in late 2018 or early 2019. I forgot, but it was a show called Tuka and Bertie.
Oh
From the
yeah.
creators of BoJack Horseman. It was cancelled by Netflix, sadly. But Adult Swim saved it. So it'll
Oh,
be back for season 2 later this year.
nice.
Excited for that as well. And one final thing I wanted to mention is we actually covered this movie earlier this year. It's called Blind Spotting.
Mm.
Blind Spotting is actually being turned into a sequel series spin-off thing on Stars.
Does it have the
Uh,
beat and digs in it?
David Dix and Rafael Casal are writing and producing it
Nice.
together with the original director as well. But this one will follow the wife of the white guy. Fuck, I forgot his name.
Uh,
The bigger dude lah.
yeah.
The split by Rafael Casal. Miles
Yes.
is his
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this time he's in prison, and it follows his wife as she's struggling to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting spin-off for Blind Spotting. I hope it's as good as the movie. If it is, then I'm
Yeah.
down for that.
Ooh, Better Call Saul's final season is this year too.
Supposedly lah, hopefully.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure what's confirmed and what's not, but like there's a fair bit to look forward to this year.
Definitely, man. Yeah. A Foundation on Apple TV Plus looks good also. Isaac Asimov's thing. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll see. I mean, like, what was the Elseworlds? Was it Elseworlds? This was.
Uh, Discworld. Yeah.
Uh,
Terrible to watch.
oh my
Yeah. Fucking
god.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like the adaptations haven't been doing too well. My all great hopes are pinned on Dune, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But the trailer for Foundation looks really good. I have to say.
What is your opinion on? I mean, this is going to be released this year. On Netflix's Cowboy Bebop live action adaptation.
Uh, I think they got the casting right.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he's up for, oh man, what's his name? Damn it.
John Cho.
Yeah, I think John Cho will do fine. My main question is whether or not they can hit um the visual acuity of it, right? Like Cowboy Bebop is such a specific look to it. I think if they can nail that and they get some really dope music,
Mm,
it should be okay. How much they're gonna change and how faithfully I mean, I really doubt they're gonna be faithful to the story per
mm-hmm.
se. But so long as you get the main protagonist down pat, I think it should be all right. And he seems like John Cho seems like he's a fair bit of a fanboy, so hopefully he'll do that justice. But that being said, again, in the history of anime adaptations, like it's never
Yeah.
been done right. So I
Yeah.
don't expect them to do any better than deliver something decent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be surprised if if it's got more acclaim than that.
Yeah. After watching The Watch, I'm very worried about adaptation. Suddenly,
Uh,
lah,
yeah.
I'm worried about Isaac Asimov's thing. I'm a bit less worried about Amazon Lord of the Rings, which seems like they're throwing a lot of money behind it. They want
Yeah,
it to.
yeah. I think with that, because from what I've read, like a lot of the people who worked on the movies will be helping out with the series itself. So I'm not too concerned about that. As far as like how it's gonna look, how it's gonna feel. My
Mm-hmm.
problem is with what they're trying to adapt. Like the portion of lore that they're trying to adapt is fairly tricky.
Mm,
It will help that it's long form, so they don't have to kind of like dance around with timelines and as much.
mm.
But it's a pretty complex chunk that they're taking on. So we'll see if they work that out. I mean, like Game of Thrones in the beginning was as complex as it gets, I think, narrative wise. And what they are trying to do with the Lord of the Rings series seems like it wants to go in that direction.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Speaking of House of Dragons, which is Game of Thrones' prequel series, will be coming out this year as
Oh,
well.
really? Okay.
Yeah. Also, I mean, obviously, every Game of Thrones fan is worried about that, considering we haven't had the best last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Uh, Why the Last Man is coming out this year as well. I'm
Oh.
also worried about that because it's a comic
Oh.
near and dear to my heart, lah.
Yeah, one of the best, one of the best. So it's really, I don't know. I mean, like it's really so hard to say how these
Yeah,
things will do. I mean, we are always right gunning for you to succeed,
of
right?
course.
Because everyone is better for it, but no one has proved this.
Hmm.
No one has proved the skeptics wrong yet. So
Correct.
we'll
Yeah.
really see. Yeah.
On a guilty pleasure note is something that I'm going to be watching in a couple of days. So this is not a recommendation by any means. I just want to see how this goes. Jared Padalecki, from Gilmore Girls, from
Yeah.
Supernatural, is starring in a prequel of Walker Texas Ranger called Walker.
Yes.
So he takes over from Chuck Norris in this reboot,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I'm just so curious to see it.
I mean, like I've seen the posters around. He looks
Yeah.
the part. He looks the part, but I don't know. I really don't know. Like who are the writers and all of that?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. They can't be good writers lah. I just want it to be cheesy fun. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean maybe they will be able to deliver that. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, the last thing I want to do is to make it like very like dark and gritty Walker. Like I don't want dark and gritty Walker. I want like 90s Walker.
Oh man, I mean it's making that genre is kind of making a comeback. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll really see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. Is there
Yeah,
anything else?
pretty much about it. Yeah, I mean, my number one was anticipated is the return of Barry, but yeah, it's been so long, and the return of Atlanta has been so long. Oh gosh,
Yeah.
these two shows are great, man. And I've been saying like a lot of in the new dramedies, like that quality. I have a feeling that when Atlanta and Barry comes back, they will really show me that they are of a different level.
Yeah.
I just miss those shows so much that I'm starting to elevate other dramedies to their level.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we should do an
Yeah.
episode. Actually, you know what? We should do an episode on workplace comedy slash dramedies because there are a
Mm.
couple of like anime ones that I absolutely love.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, let's make a note of that.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah, and we'll be back in a week's time, a couple of weeks' time actually, for Genre Equality 38. We will be discussing The Expanse Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, no, so The Expanse Season 5, sorry.
Yep.
Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Carmen San Diego's final season,
Yep.
and I'll be talking about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina's final season and a few other movies and shows as well. Till next time, though, this has been Hit Zero.
I'm Isa.
Goodbye, guys.
Ciao.